Okay, I know what you're thinking. How to make a few $1 billion. Sounds a little clickbaity, right? But what if I told you this isn't some get-rich-quick fantasy? It's a real, practical guide from a CEO who has actually done it. Not once, but 5 times.
And that's really the whole key right there. The author, Brad Jacobs, has built 5 separate billion-dollar companies, basically from the ground up. So this isn't just theory from a business school textbook. This is the actual playbook from one of the most successful and honestly underrated entrepreneurs of our time.
I mean, just let these numbers sink in for a second. We're talking $5 billion companies. He's completed around 500 acquisitions. He's raised $30 billion in capital. One of his companies, XPO Logistics, it was a 32-bagger, meaning it returned 32 times the money for the first people who believed in him. And United Rentals was the 6th best performing stock in the entire Fortune 500 for a decade. So yeah, when a guy with a resume like that decides to write a book, you kind of have to listen.
So, how in the world does he do it? Well, Jacobs says the very first step, the foundation of everything, has nothing to do with business plans or market research. It's all about mastering what he calls the inner game. Before you can build anything big in the real world, you have to literally rearrange your brain.
This quote really gets to the core of his whole philosophy. He says that the most successful people he's ever met don't just work harder or have better ideas. The real secret is that they operate from a completely different mental framework. It's a fundamental shift in how you see everything. And he doesn't leave it at that. He breaks this whole rewiring process down into 2 very clear, very actionable steps. First, you have to learn to embrace problems. And second, you have to practice something he calls radical acceptance. Let's dig into what he actually means by that.
So here's the first big mind shift. Most of us, we're hardwired to avoid problems. We see a problem, we run the other way. Jacobs says you have to do the exact opposite. You have to run towards the problem. Why? Because problems are an asset. Solving them is literally how value gets created. He calls the sweet spot the bingo quadrant. These huge, messy, complicated deals that have problems you can actually solve. That, he says, is where you find the real gold.
And this is where that second step, radical acceptance, comes in. And wow, this is a tough example. At his company United Rentals, Jacobs made a huge bet that just went completely sideways. He didn't try to hide it. He didn't pray for a miracle to save him. He just accepted the brutal reality of the situation. He took a $500 million loss with a B because it was the right move. It's all about seeing the world exactly as it is, not as you wish it was. All right, so once you've gotten your head straight and mastered your internal world, what's next? Well, now you have to master the outer game. This is all about looking outside yourself and seeing the massive forces that are shaping the world. In his words, you have to get the big trend right. This is a piece of advice he got from his mentor, and it is just so powerful. Think about it. You can mess up your hiring, your strategy, your execution. You can make all sorts of mistakes. But if you are riding a huge, powerful macro trend, like a giant wave, it can carry you forward and forgive a lot of those screw-ups. The absolute key is to have the wind at your back. Now, to really understand today's biggest trend, Jacobs wants us to take this incredibly long view. Just look at this timeline. It took us 1,000,000 years to get from stone tools to controlling fire. Another 500,000 to get to basic shelters. But then, look at the pace of change. It starts speeding up. The abacus, the printing press, and then, boom, computers, just 70-ish years ago. The rate of change isn't just fast, it's accelerating like a rocket. And that insane acceleration brings us right here, to today. So what's the biggest, most powerful wave you can ride right now? For Jacobs, it's not even a question. It's the one technology that isn't just changing businesses, it's rearranging our actual minds, artificial intelligence.
And here's where this big picture thinking becomes a super practical investment tool. He literally sorts industries into 2 buckets, those facing AI headwinds and those with AI tailwinds. So for jobs in accounting, insurance, even law, AI looks like a massive storm on the horizon. But for other sectors like healthcare, manufacturing, or retail, AI is a massive gust of wind at their backs, pushing them forward into new growth and unbelievable efficiency.
But Jacobs doesn't just stop there. With the business trend of today, he takes this idea of accelerating change and rides it all the way to its most mind-bending, logical conclusion. If AI is the biggest trend, what does that ultimately mean for us, for humanity? He asks this incredible question: what happens when humans and technology finally merge? So just take a second and let that sink in.
He's arguing that the biggest, most important trend of all has nothing to do with stock prices or industries. The ultimate trend that's barreling towards us is about the future of our species.
And this leads him directly to a concept that was made famous by the futurist Ray Kurzweil. It's called the singularity. It's this theoretical point in the future where technological growth becomes so fast and so powerful that it's basically uncontrollable. A moment that could lead to massive changes for us, maybe even a full-on merger between human biology and artificial intelligence.
And this, right here, brings us to the most shocking, the most absolutely stunning prediction in his entire book. Jacobs says, and this is a direct quote, he thinks the odds are better than 50-50 that our species, Homo sapiens, will go extinct this century. How? By merging with our own technology to create something totally new.
So, the ultimate question, the one that Brad Jacobs basically leaves hanging in the air for all of us to wrestle with, is this. In our constant, relentless drive to create new technology and build massive amounts of value, are we actually, literally building our own replacements? A pretty wild thought to end on.